by unimaginative filmmakers as a cheap method of frightening the audience. And judging by a lot of comments on my last video, people tend to agree with this definition. I agree that the jump scare has lost its former glory. Not only are movies saturated with them, I think many filmmakers are using them completely wrong. But where I disagree with a lot of people is that I think there's still hope for the jump scare, and people don't give them nearly enough credit for how amazing they can be. So let's see what they can do. And if you can't handle all the jump scares,
why, you're nothing but a great big coward.
You're right, I am a coward.
In its simplest form, a jump scare is a jarring cut, usually accompanied by a frightening sound. To illustrate this technique, let's look at an example that's not from a horror movie.
I should very much like to hold it again one last time.
Now, what makes this more than a cheap jump scare? What's important is that it not only scares, but it outlines a major plot point that resonates throughout the Lord of the Rings trilogy. With a jump scare, we see how the ring can turn the kind Bilbo into an evil and terrifying creature. A jump scare was without a doubt the best way to show the terrors of the ring firsthand. So now for the rest of their adventure, that jump scare sticks with us and reminds us how high the stakes are and how powerful the ring is. Where I think jump scares are misunderstood is that they're supposed to do much more than just give us a simple startle. A jump scare should add tension to the rest of the movie by making us distrust any moment where we feel safe. After being startled once, we're put on high alert, and with every long pause or dark shadow we experience afterwards, there's a heightened suspense and alertness because now we question everything we see. This is where many filmmakers use the jump scare wrong. When used correctly, the technique makes the calm moments of the movie scary too.
I think it's ahead of us.
It could be anywhere. The fence is down, it can wander in and out of any paddock it likes.
A jump scare should function like real life. Once you get scared once, you're scared for the rest of the night. There are great movies like The Witch that use very subtle and infrequent jump scares. They aren't scary themselves, but the quick cuts and change in sound still add to the overall suspense of the movie.
Boo!
The technique is done wrong when it's used too often and isn't punctuated with suspiciously calm and suspenseful scenes, like when Silent Hill Revelation makes a jump scare out of literally everything, including a Pop-Tart. Actually, I take it back. You can use a toaster for an effective jump, but it's the great build-up that does the trick. Another misunderstanding is that people don't know what makes a jump scare good. Take this analysis of the technique from Watch Mojo's video on the top 10 jump scares of all time.
It's a 1-2 punch of a scary face and a loud noise, and that's exactly what makes a jump scare so effective.
This is a completely wrong way to analyze jump scares. The most important part is not the scare itself. It's the 30 seconds of build-up before the scare. Build-up is what separates the good jump scare from the cheap one. Here's a simple example from The Sixth Sense. The tent opens at the top left of the frame and moves to the bottom right along with the camera. This framing guides our eyes towards the bottom right where a jump scare awaits us. This is a jump scare that doesn't require a fast cut or even any jarring movement to be scary. It was the build-up from the slow camera movement that did the trick. Compare that to the laziest jump scare of all time, the bad guy showing up through the bathroom mirror. There's no time for the build-up and it's a huge cliche. The predictable jump scare scenarios are giving the whole technique a bad reputation. The best ones should go against our expectations, not appeal to them. This jump scare in Insidious feels so fresh because we unconsciously expected the scare to come from the flashback, not from where she's telling the story. Similarly with this scene in Jaws, we expected the scariest part to be when he found the tooth, but there's actually something much worse waiting. A good jump scare is a lot like a magic trick. It's all about the showmanship. Let's use The Prestige and a jump scare from the original Poltergeist to outline this idea.
Every magic trick consists of 3 parts, or acts. The first part is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary, a deck of cards, a bird, or a man. He shows you this object. Perhaps he asks you to inspect it, to see that it is indeed real, unordinary, not. But of course, it probably isn't. The second act is called The Turn. The magician takes the ordinary something and makes it do something extraordinary. Now, you're looking for the secret, but you won't find it. Because, of course, you're not really looking. You don't really want to know. Want to be fooled. But you wouldn't clap yet, because making something disappear isn't enough. You have to bring it back. That's why every magic trick has a third act. The hardest part. The part we call the prestige.
Let's face it, jump scares usually suck, but don't write them off just yet, because when used right, they're pretty great. And don't worry, I won't end this video with a jump scare. Or will I? Thanks for watching.
The Nun, the darkest chapter in the Conjuring universe, as all the trailers say.
The Nun, the darkest chapter in the Conjuring universe. The darkest chapter, the darkest chapter.
And it's so dark that I couldn't see a goddamn thing. And the darkest chapter is Hollywood's horror movie screenwriting. The scariest thing is that this movie had a garbage, rushed script and was given a healthy budget, and had all of its marketing shoved down your face everywhere.
Do not see this movie.
Before I get into how this movie is the poster child for how shit Hollywood horror movies are these days, let's get into what the point of this movie was. So the Conjuring franchise, as we know, has been very successful and very well-made movies. So for some reason they slapped together these shitty spin-off movies with first-time filmmakers. They take one aspect of the proper movie series and bloat it with over-the-top backstories that were way more crazier than the main movies. Now we are getting into the Spider-Man 3 of horror. Too many main monsters at once. We start with the first Conjuring, Bathsheba. The main monster, nice and focused. She haunts a family and they get the help of the Warrens to get rid of it. One threat to face off against. However, that movie has a nice little intro to set up who the Warrens are. The quick case of the Annabelle doll, which in real life doesn't look like a creepy porcelain doll at all, and actually looks like a goofy Raggedy Ann doll. But whatever, it's a horror film, creative license. But then they announce an Annabelle solo movie. Righto, did nothing much in real life, but okay, what's this movie going to be? Well, they couldn't just have the doll. They needed 50 other threats. We have the doll, a silly cult, and some black demon thing. And the doll doesn't even mean shit. Even in The Conjuring, Bathsheba is like playing with it. It was just there for scary's sake. Now it has its own movie. And the movie just had some pathetic homage to Rosemary's Baby to tie together all their stupid ideas. The movie sucked. Then came the proper Conjuring 2. James Wan was back in the saddle with another Warren case file, another real-life incident, the Enfield poltergeist. To which at the time I thought wasn't that interesting of a ghost story, but he did it. He made Bill Wilkins' spirit iconic and well adapted for a horror film. And once again, the movie started with another Warren case, the Amityville horror case. Perfect. But then he introduced another element, the stupid nun. Alright, now nothing scares me. Just the image of something can't scare me. Usually the monster's importance to the story is what gives me the chills. I do not find Annabelle scary, I do not find the nun scary, but for some reason popcorn munching dummies do. So the nun was, I guess, a popular element of The Conjuring 2, but it irritated me that this new character was completely made up for the sequel and was the reason behind Bill Wilkins and the Amityville horror. Now it's taking away how adventurous the Warrens were in dealing with so many ghost cases around the world. Now it's all the nun's fault. It's a fucking ghost-faced nun, and it just stands there and has glowing yellow eyes and monster teeth. That's it. But when it's on screen and the audience goes, "Oh my god, boys, it's the nun!" And so after the second Conjuring movie, they slapped together another fucking Annabelle movie, Annabelle Creation. It's a prequel to the prequel. And I love it when there was more